Sedition, duty, loyalty. This is not just me saying words. This is a now week-long controversy with former military members who are now Democratic elected officials, Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense / War Pete Hegseth at the center of it. And it appears to be getting worse, not better. So if you haven't followed, on Monday, the Pentagon announced that it would be investigating Arizona Senator Mark Kelly over a video that ran last week, in which he, along with 5 other Democratic elected officials who are former military like Kelly, said that military members do not need to follow illegal orders. It was a thing. I thought it had died down. I'm going to talk about all of this in a minute here. I thought it had died down. It apparently had not died down because the Pentagon, yes, the official Department of War / Defense, is looking into the possibility that Mark Kelly's statement, in which he just basically said, like, you don't have to, you don't have to follow illegal orders, was detrimental and interfered with the, quote, loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces, and that there is a federal law that prohibits such actions, that the Defense Department is looking into the possibility of recalling Kelly, putting him back into active service so that they can either court-martial him or punish him in some other way. I mean, this is wild stuff, and how we got here is almost even more wild. So let me quickly make a pitch to you, which is I want you to subscribe to my channel for 2 reasons: independent and authentic. I'm independent from major media, no legacy, no corporate media. I'm independent from the 2 political parties. I'm always going to tell you what I honestly think without any party affiliation tied to it. Other thing is I'm authentic. I'm always going to tell you what I think, even if you might disagree with it, even if it might cost me subscribers, because in the long run, being authentic, being who I am, calling balls and strikes, no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing, is what matters. All right. So let's talk about, I hope you subscribe. Let's talk about how we got here. So last Tuesday, okay, mid-November, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, who's a senator from Michigan, and several other, Jason Crow, who's a member of Congress from Colorado, they all made a video in which they effectively didn't, it wasn't about any specific thing the Trump administration had done. It was just basically saying, you don't have, this is a message to the troops we served, and you don't have to follow orders that are illegal. Okay. Now, there was some sense that this was tied to the bombings of boats that the Trump administration has said are carrying drugs off the coast of Venezuela, but that was not specifically mentioned in the video. It was simply kind of, it didn't seem as though it was pegged to a specific news event. It was as though these members wanted to sort of go on the record with this video that then went viral about, you don't have to follow legal orders. Okay. Donald Trump, because he's Donald Trump, very quickly responded to all of this the same day that it came out. He said this on Truth Social, and I quote, "It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore." He then, in another post, "This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors, lock them up." In a third post, and this is the one that got the most attention, and you will quickly understand why, Trump said, "Seditious behavior, punishable by death." In another one, he posted something from another Truth Social user, including one that said, quote, "Hang them, George Washington would." Now, if you're following the news, you know that this was a big story last week. Trump threatening members of Congress with death. They got threats subsequently. The White House, through White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt, said, well, he didn't mean execute them. He meant they should be punished. And what they're doing is detrimental to the conduct of sort of the military. Okay. And then I thought, all right, we're almost to Thanksgiving. This will go away. Au contraire, mon frere. So the Pentagon's decision to investigate Kelly. You would say, well, why Mark Kelly? And for people who don't know Mark Kelly, elected in 2022 to the Arizona Senate, he is an astronaut. He is also very famously married to former Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who was shot and nearly killed earlier in last decade by a gunman at an event she was at in Arizona. So Mark Kelly is a well-known figure. Why go after him? It's not actually just because he's well-known, although I think that doesn't hurt. He is the only one that is a retired military veteran who is eligible for a pension. So he is, and who is covered by this law about you can't foment disloyalty among the troops. Everybody else didn't serve long enough, or in Alyssa Slotkin's case, she was in the CIA. They're not able to be targeted by the Trump administration. Kelly is. So the idea that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and his department would basically say, we're going to investigate this guy, and we're probably going to try to call him up to active duty under a provision that's not used all that often, but has been used before. Call him up to active duty so that we can punish him, whether that's lowering him in rank, whether it's court-martialing him, whether it's some other slap on the wrist, who knows, is remarkable. Pete Hegseth is on social media every day, the last few days, last 48 hours especially, slamming Kelly, saying that Kelly, who tweeted out a picture of him with his medals that he had won in the military, saying that the medals were on backward and hung wrong and he needed a lesson. Look, this is all, Hegseth is focusing on all this, even as he isn't in a part of the ongoing negotiations to try to end the Ukraine-Russia war, which are reaching their head, right? Like the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, is doing that. Meanwhile, Hegseth is fighting with Mark Kelly. That's neither here nor there. Oh, actually, it's kind of important because it shows you what Hegseth is focused on, and he's not focused on the big picture. He's focused on the small picture. What does this all mean? I think what it means is something we've already known, which is Donald Trump is going to use all the means at his disposal to, and by his disposal, I mean in the government, to target who he perceives to be his political enemies. Now, Mark Kelly had not been super high on that list prior to this video last week. He is a moderate senator, right, from a swing state. But Trump was clearly extremely upset by this video, as judged by the multiple Truth Social posts accusing these people of sedition and suggesting they should be executed, no matter that the White House walked that back. And he wanted to punish someone. And I am sure he said to Pete Hegseth, who knows that he keeps his job by making Donald Trump happy, do something about this. This is the same thing that Donald Trump said about Jim Comey and Letitia James and John Bolton. These are all political enemies of Donald Trump's who have been targeted by the Department of Justice and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Donald Trump wants to use the levers of the federal government to punish his political enemies. That looks to have backfired in the case of Comey and James. Their cases were thrown out by a federal judge. The Trump administration is appealing. We'll see what happens. But in this case, he wants to use the power of the Pentagon and this law that would allow Kelly to be called back up to active duty so that he could be punished to hurt Mark Kelly. I mean, it's because Trump views this video as sedition, as treason, as, undermining his ability to oversee the military. I'm not sure it's that. It's one video. I don't know why they did it, to be candid. I think both things can be true. It doesn't make a ton of sense why they did this video if it wasn't about a specific thing. If it was about Venezuela, talk about Venezuela. Why do it in a vacuum? I don't totally get it, number one, but Donald Trump's reaction to it is hugely overblown and problematic. But that's what he's doing, right? This is just like the Comey, Letitia James stuff. He is using the powers of the federal government to target political enemies. Unlike the DOJ, the potential punishment of Kelly does not need to go through the judicial system. It will be handled by the Pentagon, by the Department of Defense/War. So I could see him being penalized in some way, being court-martialed, being punished, because that's what Donald Trump wants. And Pete Hegseth knows that the way that he keeps his job, and he's already on thin ice, is to punish the people Donald Trump wants punished. Is it different than we have seen in any administration before? Yes. I don't think there's any question that people in administrations of past presidents, Department of Justice and at the Department of Justice and otherwise, I think didn't like certain politicians and maybe tried to target them. You've never seen overt urging by a president of the United States to use the the levers of the administration to get people he doesn't like. That is different. And so Mark Kelly joins Letitia James, Jim Comey, John Bolton, and I'm sure there will be others as being targeted by the federal government because Donald Trump doesn't like them and thinks they are not on his side. That is a problem, right? Doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, doesn't matter who it is. The president of the United States using the powers of the government, the official powers of the government to get people he doesn't like, you should not be in favor of that. That sets a hugely dangerous precedent, period, full stop. Okay, as I said before, I do hope you subscribe. Independence and authenticity, those are my North Stars. I hope you like and comment on this video. Helps me grow my following on YouTube and build our community. Also, be an evangelist for me. Tell a friend or two about what I'm doing and why you think it's important and why they should subscribe to this channel, especially ahead of the very fascinating and consequential 2026 midterm election. Okay.